The teaser trailer and the teaser poster were all I needed to be interested in Weapons. The premise of all the kids vanishing in the middle of the night and the visual of them running out the front door into the night with their arms spread was really creepy, really unsettling, so I was pretty much in. But I was also preparing myself because I was not a fan of Zach Cregger's previous film Barbarian. It had an interesting setup, but ultimately where it ended up going, the big reveal was really disappointing for me. So I was bracing myself for a potential disappointment because with such an interesting mystery, you need a really, really good payoff. Because if the payoff is rubbish, it just destroys the entire film. Case in point, Barbarian for me. Thankfully, that was not the case whatsoever with Weapons. The film is kind of broken up into chapters, and each chapter focuses on a different character. The first two chapters are Julie Garner, the teacher, and Josh Brolin, who's one of the parents of the missing kids. And for those first two chapters, I was really into it. The mystery pulled me in, and seeing the characters, Julie Gardner and Josh Brolin especially, navigate what's going on. Josh Brolin is trying to get to the bottom of what happened. Julie Gardner is trying to deal with people making her a pariah and calling her all sorts of names because they think she knows something that she's not telling them. I was completely on board. But then the third and fourth chapters focus on Alden Ehrenreich's character, who's a cop, and this drug addict character. And during these chapters, I started to get a bit concerned because it felt like the story was being thrown off course. At a point, I was starting to forget about the whole missing kid thing. And I was just sitting there going, what on earth is this film actually about? Why am I watching this drug addict character going around trying to scramble money together to buy whatever the hell it was? I don't know what the hell it was. I don't know drugs, but why am I watching it was the question. And then something happens in his chapter and I was like, oh, and all the concerns immediately went away. And that's my number one kind of tidbit if you go to watch Weapons, is be patient, because it takes a long time to get to the answers that you're looking for. It's very much a slow burn. And when it gets to the chapters on the cop and the druggie, it might feel a bit confounding at first, but just trust the film because all the side plots, all the side characters are relevant and they all come together. All the threads come together in the end to make one hell of a yarn. Also, the first half of this film doesn't really feel like a horror film. It feels like a genuine drama. The horror stuff doesn't really come into play until much later on. And that's an element of the film I can see a lot of people being disappointed in because the trailer paints it very much as a horror film. So people going into it hoping to be scared out of their mind might be watching this film going, what the hell's this? I was expecting a horror. So I could definitely see people being disappointed in this. I, for one, admittedly was like, there is not a lot of horror in this in the first half, but I was not disappointed in that because my favourite horror films are the ones that put the emphasis on the characters and the drama, which this one absolutely does. And I was invested in the characters, I was invested in the drama. I enjoyed watching these characters navigate the grief of the loss of these kids and how they process it in lots of different ways: anger, sadness, accusations to Julie Garner's character. It's a drama first and a horror second. The horror services the drama. In other words, is a filmmaker actually trying to tell a story and not get cheap jump scares out of the audience. Even though there are one or two cheap jump scares in a couple of dream sequences in the first half, which did feel a little bit unnecessary. That's one of my gripes with the film. And when the horror stuff does come later on, I love how, again, it's not jump scares. It's not a horror film that tries to scare you by screaming in your face. It's just unsettling imagery and feelings of unease, which I love. And it was very effective because some of this imagery I was like, oh, yeah, no. And no spoilers, but there was a character in the latter part of the film who was in a very dire situation, and it's related to the horror elements. And I was really feeling for this character. And there are parts where the film is surprisingly compelling, mainly to do with this character who is in this situation. And in the climax of the film, it all comes together, all the characters, all the plot threads, they finally coalesce, and it's very satisfying and also quite bonkers. Something goes down in that finale, which I started chuckling, but in a way where it was just really satisfying and surprising to actually watch it unfold. It was good. When a horror film comes out that gets this much love and acclaim, historically, I've kind of struggled to really jump on the bandwagon. So when one comes out that actually does live up to the hype and acclaim, it's quite an amazing thing for me because There's been a lot of highly acclaimed horror films in the past 10 years that I've straight up disliked, i.e., Barbarian, and thankfully Weapons not only lives up to that hype and acclaim, but it lives up to its own potential. The central mystery of the missing kids, the thing that got me intrigued in the film to begin with, was engaging, it was investing, it pulled me in, and the ultimate reveal and what the hell is actually going on, what's the actual answer to that question, was a satisfying answer and one that I was unable to predict. I had a few theories as to what it might have been. It was none of them. So that's always a major, major plus, with a mystery film especially. My favourite horror film since Hereditary? Possibly. I'd have to think about it. It's up there for sure. But this is a horror film that I'm certainly going to remember, which can't be said for a lot of the films that come out in this genre for me. So go watch Weapons. Be patient, but go watch it.